नürबुर्गरिंग नॉर्डशलाइफर चैलेंज डिफरेंट कार्स पिक करेंगे. We'll try and check out कि लोगों ने क्या टाइम्स मारे हुए हैं. I'll have 2 hours to do this. We're gonna see how close we can get. This is, I think, pretty tricky to drive, to be honest, and that's why I love it. We're gonna do this on the Nordschleife, probably like 200 hours into this track, and I just love this track. We do need to find a competitor. So the best source here would be to go to YouTube and just search for the world record for the AE86 tuned on the Nordschleife, and kind of times we see are 801, 804, some even below sub 7s, but those I think are tourist tracks. Today would be 8 minutes. Yeah, 8 minute 20 would be our goal to try and meet in this next 2 hours. On the left you can see there's a timer that just counted down to 159, that golden timer. We're going to try and keep that on the screen just to make sure this session is recorded as the timer is counting down, and we can kind of use that to chase down the lap time of 8 minute 20 that we have set here. As we come around this right-hander, big moment, losing the rear, one of many to try and keep this car on the track. Similar thing here, these snake of corners one after another. Big moment trying to keep this car in one piece. As we come around the carousel, front end lifts off and we hit the wall. Obviously this time this is still very early, so I don't want to lose the lap, so I continue onto this track and find ourselves at the end of the track right before the straightaway. We have another moment, not able to get the exit that we want, coming around to finish this first lap, and we have just about done an 8 minute 31, and that is a good 11 seconds off the pace. Starting our second lap, we find ourselves attacking this corner at the right speed, but then the rear just steps out and curb on the outside just does not help. Fast forwarding this lap to this big straightaway, coming down and then up the hill. As we grab on the brakes, turn in, the car just understeers at first and then is able to grab. We're able to get a good exit out of here. Decent exit, I'd say. Then another moment, just trying to keep the car on the track. It's very difficult. Come back around, pretty much the entire lap goes as expected, and we fast forward to the point where we are back at the downhill section. One of my favorite sections on this track, this part, the few consecutive downhill section, really tests your ability to plant the car correctly. Come down here, we clip the apex, but we find ourselves going over the line and just ruining our lap. It was a good lap, as you can see. There's a good 5-second difference between this and the lap before it, but all that to no wane as we have left the track, unfortunately. Coming around a couple of corners before the long straightaway at the end, and we slide the car to the right, and we're just not able to recover it back, and that's just the bane of driving this car as we hit the wall and go for another restart. Time for some setup changes. I do change the diff coast and increase that, and we reduce the camber just so I can get a little bit more stability, which does help as you can see here, but there is more understeer on entry, which is something I'm going to have to manage. It's a bit of a trade-off. You get a little bit less oversteer when trying to exit corner, but on the entrance you get a little bit more understeer, and we just cannot keep the car on the track as we go over that curb, come around at the end of the track, and we hit the wall. Very frustrating first few sessions. We are already 30 minutes into the session. Start another lap. I think this is restart number 3 as we go off the track again and once again, and this brings us to our third restart of the session as we kind of gear ourselves up again for another lap, hoping for the best. I am worried about setting a ghost at this point because I have no one to chase, and that attempt just was about destroyed as we almost exited the track, coming around these snake corners that I like to call them. We just are able to keep the car on the road, but the rear left leaves the road and we are not able to keep the car on the track as we hit. And frustration kind of builds up as I look at the setup, and there's not much that I really want to change except for continuing to drive the way we are. This would be restart number 4. Decent entry on the exit, more understeer, unexpected, with the diff coast setting higher. We don't want enough locking on the diff just to make sure that the car doesn't rotate too much. Bit of a safety net, not the fastest, but would allow us to get around. But just as we say those words, we lose the car on the hill, big puff of smoke, turn the car around, lots of frustration, continue the lap as we did, and we eventually leave the track and find ourselves completely dead. Coming up to our 5th restart of the session, we start the session pretty well, go around the track. As we're just about coming around this fast right-hander, we are not able to keep the car on the road, and we just about leave the track. Restart again, restart number 6, and we are finding ourselves going back on the main straightaway. Going back to the downhill section, once again one of my favorite sections. Brake onto our right, try and carry azimuth understeer through here. The exit will close up on you, so you want to keep the car a little bit to the left. Hug the right, keep it on the right, hug the left, try and take the curb if you can, and aim for the curb at the exit as soon as you can. Come to the right, and just about avoid exiting that corner too fast and coming off that curb, famous YouTube corner. Coming up to the right, putting back in third, just so we can get all that torque. We do slide a little bit to the outside, classic understeer AE86, and then we come back here, try and keep it tight, full throttle, keep the car under control. As you go back up the hill, back in third, trying to get as much torque out of this exit as possible, keeping the line wide just to not make the car get too upset and slide on us. Let's come to the left. Bit of a tricky corner as you don't want to take that curb because you would end up on the outside of the track. As you can see here, we just about are managing about a 4 to 5 second lead on the car behind us. As we come up to the straight, we have put in a pretty good lap time to try and see how close are we to the 8-minute 19 target that we have set for ourselves. 8-minute 20, 8-minute 19. A little bit more understeer as we come back around, keep it in second, use that exit torque to just about finish the lap in 8-minute 20, which is not enough for what we want to do, and that is a bit of a moment for frustration as we finally have a ghost. We're able to follow the ghost just for a little while. All right, it is keeping a gap on us as we exit this right-hander, which is pretty fast right-hander coming up with the fastest straight, and we go for a restart number 7 as we hit the wall one more time. Restart number 8. We restart and we're following the car again just at the start of the track, trying to keep the car in, closing up that gap with the car in front of us, but pushing too much and then overcorrecting. Rookie mistakes. Restart number 9, and this is restart number 10 as we leave the track at the same point. Good exit over here, but we overshoot, and that's restart number 10. Definitely not my best performance, but certainly the camera does something to the way you perceive yourself and the way you drive. I'm not trying to come clean here, but this is a very poor performance, but that elusive 8-minute 19 is just not coming by as we come around this right-hander and we try and get close to the car, get up a better exit. It takes a slightly shallower line, so we're able to get a better exit by a wider line, and we are just catching up to it. Manifesting us catching that car. We stay behind this car for a little while longer as we come up to this left-hander, and we're not able to close the gap. Coming up to this snakes, we just about twist the car enough to get that nice exit and load up the rear and get that traction off the line to kind of put some gap between us and the car and the ghost. Now the ghost is 0.5 seconds advanced on us, so if we're ahead of the car, then we are basically good on clinching the 8-minute 19, which is what we're looking for in this session. Coming around at the end of the straightaway on the halfway point on the track, we are a good 1.5 to 2 seconds ahead of that car from the gap. As you come around to the downhill section, my apologies, the frame rates are a bit jittery here. Not sure why, but as we kind of work our way through this downhill section, the only thought that's going through my mind is we have 40 minutes left and I still need to get that 8-minute 19 in. We take a big risk here on that inside curve as we somehow land on the road. We are able to just keep that car at bay, but there's a lot more understeer here, and that camber changes coming back to haunt me at this point as I am attacking the downhill section. Overcorrecting here a bit, but still staying ahead of the Ghost, keeping the car in one piece. That's much more important right now. As you can see, the gap is still about a 1.5 seconds on the car behind us as we get a really nice exit onto the straightaway, and we kind of solidify our position in ahead of the Ghost.
This might be the one.
Manifesting the and I'm really pleased at the 8-minute 19, even though that is not something to write home about, but it's one of those things where you kind of need to keep it all together, and this car just does not make it easy to do that. The car has a lot of bad habits, but that's why it is one of my favorite cars to drive on the Nürburgring. It just makes things that much more interesting. So that will be it for this session. We did manage to get about 8-minute 19, which is 4% of the world record. Am I pleased with that? I'd say so. I'll try to get more practice into these sessions before I come in, just so we can have more quality time together. But until then, take care and see you next time.
AE86. Let me know in the comments, what car do you want to see next?